back to another episode of the Let's Chat Derbyshire podcast, a podcast about mental health, suicide prevention and neurodiversity. We hope you're doing well today, and we are joined by Amelia. Today we're going to be talking about postpartum psychosis. If you're not already, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast, drop us a comment and do share it with someone who may find it useful just having a listen. So Amelia, just before you introduce yourself, how are you doing out of 10?
9.
That's strong. That is good. Don't think I've ever been a 9. That is amazing. It's all these luxuries we've got. Cardboard walls, black cloth. It's amazing. That's good.
Yeah.
That is really good. Yeah, I'm probably a 7, and that's going strong, to be fair. So yeah, just to get us started, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, a bit about who you are, and why you're here, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I'm Amelia. I'm 41 years old. I'm a mum of one little boy, and I'm here to talk about postpartum psychosis and getting through it, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. If you want, just I guess, what is postpartum psychosis, and for you, how was that experience, and what did it look like?
Wow, quite a big question.
A big question. We'll start with what was it to you, I guess. Yeah.
So for me, postpartum psychosis started really as small anxieties, panics, around like looking after my son. Yeah. And could I look after him, and might I hurt him in some way? And then by the end of the week, just before I got sectioned, it was whole days of being psychotic, being somewhere else in my head. Yeah.
What was it like for you? Were you aware of it worsening, or to you was it just the constant worry and anxieties? And
yeah, so it did start as just quick panics, like I say. I think perhaps one of the first sort of experiences of it for me and my partner was when I was just crying, holding my son, and my partner said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I just feel like I'm going to hurt him." And my partner was like, "Of course you're not going to hurt him. Like, you're his mum. Yeah. You're not going to hurt him." And I was almost scared. Like, I had real fear inside of me about doing something to hurt Fabian. And I think a lot of things happened over a week. Yeah. But it sort of, I could be completely normal 1 minute, and then the next minute I can only describe it as like falling into a state that wasn't me. And with it came huge fear. Yeah. I can't really describe what the fear is, but it's almost like I was being chased by something. And on one occasion I bolted out of the house, and my mum chased me around the village because I was running away from something. Yeah. And I didn't know what. And I'd left my son at home, who was 5 weeks old. Yeah. So it sort of developed and developed and developed. Yeah. And I think it was one particular night. I mean, this sort of happened over a 5-day period. One particular night, I was so scared that I was just repeatedly calling the Samaritans for help. I knew I needed help, but I did not know where the help would come from. Yeah. So I was calling them and just begging them to send somebody to help me. And, I'm at this point, I'm not really in reality. So what I think is happening is not what's happening. Yeah. But essentially, my mum got on the phone, and I think it was a guy on the phone, said, "You've got to get to hospital as quickly as possible." So I left my son with my dad, and my mum took me to Chesterfield Hospital. And on the way to Chesterfield Hospital, I was really concerned that I'd left my son with my dad. I mean, my mum, we'd actually moved in with my mum and dad. We'd had some house renovations at the time, so we just said safest place for all three of us after I came out of hospital was to live with my mum and dad. So we were being so well looked after, but at that moment I was so concerned that my dad was going to hurt my son.
Yeah, sounds really heavy.
I was also really concerned that if he wasn't going to hurt my son, he was going to hurt me. And me and my mum were in the car, and I was telling my mum all of this like it was, it was real. And my mum was like, "I've just got to get you to hospital. Like, I don't know what's going on right now."
Yeah.
Got to hospital, and I just had to get to the desk. I just had to get someone to see me, to assess me, to help me. And the crisis team assessed me. But during the time in which they assessed me, I was completely normal. Like, I'd come out of that state, and I was like, "Oh, why am I here? I feel normal. I can go home."
Yeah.
But it was like that. I just drifted in and drifted out. But then after that sort of time at the hospital, I got sent home with diazepam, and I was again at home with mum and dad. My partner was there. And I just became very suspicious. I didn't know whether to take this diazepam or not. I didn't know who to trust.
Yeah.
Like, I was sort of turning on my own family. I had a massive distrust of my dad, a massive distrust of my partner. And I think, like, it's all very blurred to me now. It's almost like I don't want to remember it.
Yeah.
But I think the crisis team came again. They assessed me. I was having times of hallucination. I was seeing distorted faces, so people would come to the house and I thought they were all laughing at me. And yeah, I think a lot of it was being completely exhausted, actually. And I spent a lot of time sleeping, and sometimes I would wake up in a sort of psychotic state, and sometimes I would wake up in a normal state. And I think it was really very difficult for my family to manage that, because I kept like bolting out of the house, because I was saying, to them the situation was normal, and to them I was still me, but the things that I was saying and doing were completely not me at all. So they just could not look after me at home. And essentially, in the end, I was a danger to myself and a danger to my son. Yeah. So,
what was it like during the pregnancy? I guess, did this literally happen just when after?
No. So I developed psychosis 5 weeks after having Fabian. So psychosis can develop straight away, but it didn't for me. It was delayed. Yeah. So, I mean, no one really knows what causes psychosis, but quite often it is to do with a difficult birth. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say I had a difficult birth. So I had a long labour, and then I had an epidural which went wrong. So I had another epidural. The long labour ended in an emergency C-section. And then, obviously, I wasn't expecting that C-section, and I was quite sort of traumatised by the experience, but also maybe it's because I'm an older mum, but I was physically fit, but I really struggled having had that. Well, it is major surgery, a C-section, so I couldn't do things for Fabian. So that first week of Fabian's life, my partner was heavily, I would say that first week, my partner was mum and dad to my little boy, because I couldn't do things. But I had what they call a spinal headache, which is a side effect of the epidural. So essentially, it's like a very intense migraine, which disappears when you lie down. But when you sit up, it's really strong, and I couldn't function. So I couldn't carry Fabian, I couldn't lift him, I couldn't bath him, I couldn't really feed him. I had to just lie in bed. So it was my decision to go back into hospital and to have what they call a blood patch done. So they take blood out of your arm and they put it into your spine to basically heal the point of the epidural, which after you lie on your back for 4 hours, it sounds very medieval this, but after you lie on your back for 4 hours, the headache goes, and it did.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
So after that, I began to look after Fabian, but it was probably the worst sort of first week, I'm sure for him and for me, although he probably didn't notice that I wasn't there. I mean, Matt did a fantastic job of looking after Fabian that week, but I was almost on the back foot. And then I was, you know, trying to be a good mum and sort the feeding and make sure I was sleeping and make sure I was eating. And like I said, we were living with my mum and dad at the time, and luckily they were looking after me and I was looking after my son. But so that sort of time leading up to psychosis, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't the best.
Well, it sounds really, I guess, traumatic from, you know, that and, you know, a long period. Were you, I guess, thinking about it at the time as in, like, you know, because there's a lot of pressure on new mums and dads to perform a certain way, you know, do certain things, you know. Was that going through your head at the time, do you know, thinking, I can't do this, I can't do that? Or was it just, you know, in that much agony, I guess, and
I think,
trying to recover?
I think with the sort of baby hormones, you do get like huge like rushes of love. Like it was looking back, it was a very happy time. You know, obviously I had the psychosis, but those early weeks were lovely because I had my family and because of the time of year in which Fabian was born, July, it was summer holiday and Matt was off, and I knew he was going to be off all summer. And actually I'm very lucky that it was that time of year and Matt was off work. But yeah, you know, looking back, I mean, there wasn't anything really that I was sort of doubting myself as a mum. It all, you know, almost the first few weeks were seemingly normal, but then there were just little things like we'd have visitors to the house and I was a bit suspicious as to why they were there and sort of like, when are they going? But I think, you know, I was making my little nest and, you know, it was just us and we were getting used to our new baby and but yeah, it's strange how quickly it can develop.
You might not have spoken to Matt about it, but do you know how it was for him, or is it?
Well, interestingly, and I mean it was something that we spoke about long before he went, but that week he was going to a music festival.
Right.
So like I said, we were living with mum and dad, so as far as I was concerned, it wasn't an issue that he went for a few days, had mum and dad, everything was fine. But he was actually away when I was at Chesterfield Hospital. He wasn't there, so in the end my dad said, you've just got to get Matt to come home. So he arrived home and I was seemingly normal. So then I don't know whether I went to sleep and then woke up psychotic, but he sort of dealt with me as it got worse. Like, so my mum and dad were with me for the earlier days and then he sort of arrived home and, you know, I was just, I can only describe it as on another planet, you know, completely not with it. And, you know, my partner would say I was like almost on my own agenda, only really interested in what I was doing. And sort of, I'd forgotten that I'd had a baby. I'd forgotten how to care, or that I needed to care for my son. Like, you know, feeding, bath time, getting him dressed, nappies, wasn't my job.
That's it must have been a lot of pressure on him. To be able to look after you, because I'm sure it must have been really scary for him. And then obviously have the new baby as well at the same time.
But ultimately, you know, he and my mum just, you know, got me to the right place. They woke me up from a sleep, got me dressed, bundled me into the car. This was sort of bank holiday Monday. It was actually my brother's birthday. We were supposed to be having a family barbecue, bundled me into the car and got me to Chesterfield Hospital and got me sectioned. And I think it was probably quite a relief.
Can you remember what that was like for you at all, or were you just in?
So I was definitely on another planet. So I woke up, I was mute, wouldn't talk, because I thought if I spoke, my family were going to die.
Wow. That's heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No idea where these thoughts were coming from.
Yeah.
So the journey to Chesterfield Hospital from where my parents live, probably about half an hour, completely silent in the back of the car, didn't say anything. And I got to Chesterfield Hospital, and it's very patchy, but can remember talking to a consultant. And then I think another consultant came, and I think two of them agreed that, because I think you have to have a referral to go to a mother and baby unit. So I think the two consultants decided that I needed to go.
Yeah.
I think I was quite an extreme case from what Matt says.
Okay.
So yeah, I was taken in an ambulance from Chesterfield Hospital to the Beeches mother and baby unit. I thought Matt was chasing the ambulance down the motorway, but in actual fact Matt went home, picked up my little boy to bring him to the Beeches to be with me. So what I was thinking was happening in my head and what was real were completely different. And I think that's probably the main thing in terms of how I experienced psychosis. I was just like seeing and feeling things that just weren't real.
Sounds quite lonely as well for you if you're thinking everyone's against you, and it's just you trying to fight through it. So obviously you're on your way to the Beeches, Matt's bringing Fabian. What was after that then, really?
So I mean, I suppose that's the amazing thing about a mother and baby unit, that the mother and baby get to stay together, because I said earlier that the risk was I couldn't look after myself, I couldn't look after my son. So the fact that I was able to stay with my son and develop that bond was, probably the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But from the outside, you think, how can that mum stay with a baby? They're a risk to the baby. But because you're in that environment, that safe space, it's possible, and it's amazing. And I mean, I think probably for the first week, I didn't really know what was happening. I didn't really know where I was or why I was there. I know that I was sort of being monitored 24 hours a day. There was someone waiting outside my room. I thought that was death waiting outside my room.
Oh God!
Like honestly, all the feelings and the feelings and the sensations for me, it was all around dying. And I think having sort of read more recently about it, that's quite a common thing. But yeah, as I got better, obviously those episodes would go, and as I was medicated, it sort of reduced again into sort of small anxious bursts rather than psychotic days of being in a psychotic state.
What did the support look like for you?
So again, I don't really remember, but I said to my family, like, someone needs to visit me every day. And Derby Hospital is not local for us, so I mean, that's just me being a diva, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good demand though.
But they did it, I did get a visitor every day, so it would be my parents or my partner or my sister or my brother or a friend. Someone would always come and visit, so I always had a focus for the day in that way. I knew at some point a bit of normality would arrive. But really on a day-to-day basis, it's a sort of home from home experience. It's not like a hospital ward at all. So there's 6 rooms, 6 beds, six mums and babies. There's communal areas, so there's a lounge and there's a sensory room where you can go with your baby. There's also like an area to like change and bath your baby. So so basically the sort of routines that you would try to get into at home, you can mimic those at the Beeches. And you've got the nursing staff, not only to look after you, but to help with your baby as well.
Oh wow!
So the early days, I would say for me, were just about getting me better. So I'd obviously have time with my baby, interactions with my baby, but we slept separately. So Fabian would be looked after in the nursery, and I would get to have a full night's sleep, which is all part of the recovery. Still, when I was in the Beeches, I was very fearful of how to look after my son, and I didn't want him in the room with me. I was scared that I was like I was going to do something that would harm him in some way. So I was fine with the fact that he wasn't, he was in the nursery and being looked after. And I think, I knew I was getting better when I was able to have Fabian overnight and look after him through the night, feed him, etc. And I suppose, in terms of what did I do whilst I was there, I suppose I learned how to be a mum. Yeah. With a fantastic support around me. I used my days to just do normal stuff, like making sure I was sleeping properly, eating properly, getting out for a walk, some exercise. But it wasn't in any way a negative experience for me. I fully embraced being there and enjoyed it, and actually had a laugh along the way a lot of the time. So
that's really good. Sounds like it's such a caring environment. Yeah. To you, did it make the world of difference being able to have Fabian with you? Because a lot of times, if places don't have mother and baby units, you are just sectioned in a mental health hospital, and that's that.
Yeah. Obviously at first I wasn't really aware of the need to look after my son, etc. So it perhaps wouldn't have, for me anyway, it perhaps wouldn't have made any difference if I'd been somewhere else. But obviously, as I became more aware of myself and my situation, like the thought of not having Fabian there, totally the wrong approach as far as I'm concerned. Like, it was part of my recovery, having my baby close and being able to feel normal in many ways. I mean, I actually I'm from Sheffield. I live out of sort of the catchment of the Beeches, and it was sort of circumstantial that I was living in Derbyshire at the time with my parents that I was able to go to the Beeches. I do sometimes wonder what would have happened if it had turned out differently, or sort of rely on other people's versions of what actually happened, which obviously is how they recall it, and that isn't actually what it was like, and it probably isn't what it was like for me. But I was always very much like I want to get back to normal, and being able to like go home, reduce my medication, come off my medication. It was always like, trying to get to the next step. But I came off. So I came out of the Beeches in the October. Just after my 40th birthday. So, I was expecting this massive party. I was actually in the Beeches, but they gave me a little party anyway. So it was a different kind of celebration, but not many people can say that they were sectioned and in a mother and baby unit around their 40th birthday. The following July, I came off my medication. It was slowly sort of decreased over the year. And then I returned to work full time. So within a year of coming out of the Beeches, probably about 9 months, life was seemingly back to normal.
It's incredible. Well, God, that's a real recovery. What's it been like since then? As if things okay or
I mean, I had never really suffered with mental health issues. I'm not really an anxious person. So it came out of the blue. And it's not, psychosis is nothing like what you're sort of told about in terms of what you might feel like after having a baby. People talk about baby blues. I mean, this was not baby blues. But some, when I'm talking about the thoughts and feelings that I had after having Fabian, in terms of the anxieties around sort of feeding and care and that sort of thing, those are not normal.
100%,
that is how every new mum feels in many ways. But it's, I mean, it must be quite a difficult job for the crisis team to decide whether this is just normal or whether this is psychosis. And for me, I feel like perhaps the help didn't come fast enough. It was over August bank holiday, but you know, I was sort of assessed and sent home and then assessed. But you know, it's a big decision to section somebody.
No, it is, yeah, definitely.
And it's obviously, you know, I think my mum in particular was concerned that, you know, had she made the right choice for me.
Yeah, I bet.
But absolutely, you know, it wasn't fair for them to have to continue to look after me at home, and it wasn't safe. You know, I think they thought that I might run out of the house and get run over. You know, it was, you know, they didn't know what I was going to do next. So, I look back on my time at the Beeches really, really positively, fondly. I've made some good friends. I'm still in touch with people at the Beeches.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's just part of my story. Yeah,
and that's fine, isn't it? Yeah, 'cause it sounded like it all progressed really quickly, didn't it, for you? And at least there was that support there. But yeah, there was a delay, wasn't there? But I guess there is always difficult decisions to be made.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How did it affect your mum and dad at the time? Did you know? Or
I think that, I suppose it's a sort of, well, a generational thing perhaps. Like, you know, I think they probably thought I was going to get sectioned. As in, you know, if you carry on behaving that, you're going to get sectioned. And I suppose, like, I was quite naive. I mean, I'd done NCT, but and we talked about psychosis and we talked about mother and baby units, but at the time, even when I was experiencing psychosis, I couldn't recognise that it was psychosis.
100%.
And I don't think my family, as close as we are, they recognised that it was psychosis either. Yeah. And I think that they were concerned that I was going to be separated from my son. And I think that they were trying, you know, ultimately they were trying to protect me in that relationship. And yeah, you know, there is a stigma still around mental health, but you know, I think as a family we're all in agreement that it was the best thing for me. And you know,
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
We laugh about it.
Good.
You know,
you've got to.
No one can describe what, you know, what we all went through.
No, definitely
all of us.
Not.
You know, it was all a very emotional time for us. We all felt emotion and felt perhaps guilt, and you know, in all different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know,
you've got through it though, and that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really good to hear you're all, you know, doing well now.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
No worries.
Just I guess just to wrap us up then, any advice or just from your experience, if anyone is worried about, you know, the partner or maybe going through something similar themselves, is just any advice to get through it?
I mean, you know, when people talk about postpartum psychosis, quite often they say, oh, you know, are they trying to hurt their baby, or you know, are they having suicidal thoughts, or you know, are they not sleeping? That, you know, they've got a certain sort of idea about what it is, but it can sort of unravel in so many different ways, and it can sort of change. So all I would say, if you are experiencing some of these thoughts, or your partner's experiencing some of these thoughts, feelings, just reach out for help. I mean, I didn't really know where to get help from initially, which is why I rang the Samaritans. But if you can get to hospital and speak to the crisis team, or you can speak to your GP, you know, just reach out for help. And if help isn't coming faster, be that annoying person and just keep trying to get help.
Yeah, and we'll pop links to the Beeches in. We'll pop a link into our support guide we've got, just with other support services in for new mums and dads within Derby and Derbyshire. But thank you for talking to us. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, thank you for having me.
No, it's all right, lovely. So thank you for listening to the Let's Chat Derbyshire podcast. Like I said at the start, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will be sharing additional information on our social medias for new mums and dads, family members that can just be useful to support each other. Thank you. Cheers.